evening. Welcome to the Sustainable Business Council's final sustainability shot of this school year. We're real excited that you're all here tonight, and we hope you'll enjoy the food and wine. If you didn't sign in when you got here, it would be great if you'd sign in. It's how we keep account of who all is here, and that allows us to tell our funders and our sponsors and those sorts of folks who all came, and they get pretty excited about that. My name is Sue Anderson. I am the Administrative Coordinator for the Sustainable Business Council, and I'm going to call up one of our board members in a minute to introduce our speaker. First, I had two things I wanted to tell you. The first is Bayern Brewing is provided our beer tonight, and they have a new program that you may all be interested in. They are now going to do glass reuse. So their glass bottles you can put in the brown bucket that's on the counter over there, and we will see that it gets back to the factory. They are now, they have a heat washing machine that will be able to sterilize those. So at this point in their life, they're only taking Bayern bottles, and they have to be the Bayern bottles that are the size that's on the side of the brown box. But in the future, they hope to do some more as well. One of the neat things about doing that is there is a deposit to take the box, but then they pay you for each bottle that you return to them. So it's going to be a very nice process. And when you return the box at the end of the life, if you move out of town, they're also going to pay you back for the box. My second announcement is that we have our 4th annual Garden City Local Fest. We've moved it back into June with the hope that we'll have better weather than we did last year. No guarantees in Montana, of course, but that's our hope. It's June 23rd, and it will be from 11:45 to 8 p.m. at Karis Park. We're going to have a, what's the title of it? Local Gourmet Chef Challenge as the first event of the day. So it will be a chef's competition with a number of local restaurants providing chefs. The reason we moved the time up to 11:45 is the chefs are actually going to go over to the Clark Fork Market and shop for what they cook with. So it will be fresh local produce that comes right out of the market that they'll be using. There'll be a secret ingredient as well. If you're interested in either vending or sponsoring that event, we are still looking for sponsors, and of course we're just put out the call for vendors. And our information on that is out on our website, and you're welcome to go grab the forms and that sort of thing out there. We'd love to see you. There are little cards that secret here. If you bring one of these back to Local Fest, we'll have a prize for you at the SBC table. So take this, put it on your refrigerator, don't lose it. Got it. Okay, good. Can I have all the board members raise your hand real quick, just so folks in the room know who they are? We have Elizabeth, Brandy, Christine, Job, Lisa, Heather, and Liz here tonight. Did I miss anybody? I think I got them all. If you have questions about SBC, don't hesitate to ask them. And right now, I'm going to bring up Elizabeth Harrison. She is with the YWCA. Almost said M, sorry. And she's one of our newer board members. We're real excited to have her have joined us. She's helping us with some marketing and outreach efforts. And the SHOT series is part of one of the committees she has joined. I'm going to bring her up, and she'll introduce our speaker for us tonight.
Thank you. So I did just want to tell you a little bit about what this series is. If you aren't aware, for those of you who aren't aware, it is a time where we provide a concentrated shot of information on a topic about sustainability, and we offer a chance for you guys to kind of network with like-minded people. And I also wanted you to keep your eyes open for our next SHOT series in the fall, and we already have a speaker lined up. We're really excited. We have Cassidy Randall from Women's Voices of the Earth, and she's going to be talking about toxic chemicals in your cleaning products and how they affect women's health and our community. So that's really exciting. We don't have a date yet, but just keep watching our website, and we'll send out an e-blast for those of you. Do we have a place to sign up for our email list here?
Yes, that's the signage at the front door. You can check if you want to be on the email list.
then you can get, there you go, our information, or we can get you our information about all of our events. Also, I just want to say a warm welcome to Molly Bradford. We're really excited to have her here tonight. Molly is the marketing director for SBS Solar, and she has helped. She's been a long time SBC supporter, and she's helped with our STS trainings. So we're really excited to have her here giving a presentation. I first met Molly through the YWCA, and I can attest to her awesomeness in terms of marketing and everything else. And she was a real help to and mentor to me. So thanks, Molly. And she also owns MissoulaEvents.net and actually started that. Is that correct?
Sort of.
Sort
Started it.
Okay. Well, it's a really great site if you haven't been there. And she wanted me to let you know that she owns a 110-year-old home, and she's lived in it for 10 years. And she has implemented a lot of the things that she's going to be talking about today in her home over the past 10 years. And as a result, she's reduced her bill from $175 to $106 a month. So she says that she lives it and she likes it. So without further ado, Molly Bradford, thank you.
I'm definitely blushing after that. That's really flattering, thanks. If you guys can't see this and you think you'd like me to shut the blinds or the drapes, or if someone wants to just shut the drapes, I think it might be a little bit easier. That would be great. Oh, yeah. And this is a really great screen, but I think for those of you back there on the back side of the bar, you probably can't see it at all. And there is some seating we can move around and plenty of standing room. And I don't think I smell, so you could stand over here next to me. But if you guys are back there and you want to come forward so you can see the screen better, that would be great. So I probably should have titled this Unraveling Incentives opposed to just tax mysteries, because it's more than just tax incentives that exist today. But first, what I want to just talk a little bit about very briefly is why I was even asked to come. Do I have any street cred? Sort of. I'm good at marketing. I live in this old house. I've implemented a lot of this on my own. But I work for a company, SBS Solar, that does renewable energy, primarily solar PV, which for those of you who don't know is the abbreviation for photovoltaic, and that is solar energy. There's also solar thermal, which is hot water production. We also have a great geothermal partner that we work with, and some great HVAC and energy retrofitting partners that we work with beyond the services that we can do outside of our own business. And some of those folks are here today, and I'll point them out at the end when we get into questions. So, why incentives? This is a neat slide I like from '08 that says 40% of primary energy use, 72% of electricity consumption, 39% of CO2 emissions, and nearly 14% of potable water consumption comes out of existing U.S. housing building stock. So we got into this business, and incentives were initiated because while we can build everything from today on better, what about all the stuff that's already here? Let's make it better, and without just tearing it down. So the goal, less kilowatts and also less decatherms. That's what your gas is measured in. So utilities will say we're doing it because it's just right for all of our families. And while that's true, it is. I don't think any large business is solely motivated by that alone. The fact of the matter is there's huge demand on the aging electrical grid. My phone is wireless, and my iPod is wireless, and my wireless laptop can be wireless with wireless internet, but I have to plug it all in eventually, and it's connected to an older system. In some states and instances, the government says so. There's mandates and initiatives, And the bottom line, energy efficiency is cheaper than building power plants. For every $1, or let's explode that a few decimal points, for every $1,000 that's invested in renewable energy implementation on our homes, the energy utilities save $10,000 that they would have to put into building another plant. That's significant. And so that's a great motivation for putting solar on our houses or giving us incentives to tighten up our homes rather than just building additional energy plants. So I'm going to blow through some of the types of renewable energy and energy efficiency upgrades that qualify for tax incentives and utility rebates. And then from there, I'm going to break them down by category, then I'm going to relump them residential or commercial, and then we're going to do some math. And I'm sure a lot of you guys don't love math, but I do, and I actually got my degree in math. And I think that when you look at the math, while there's sort of going to be silly story problems, take yourself back to middle school, which means they're an example. They're not really about your house and your house and your house. I think the math will be a helpful example. And then if you're interested in going further, we can do the math for you on your home or on your business. So types of renewable energy. We have solar PV, again, that stands for photovoltaic, that's energy, design and installation. We have ground source heating, design and installation. And I like to point out that it's the whole process that applies for some of this. It's generally your whole bill. Solar, thermal, wind, and hydro. The first two are bolded because those are the ones that we do the most of. Hydro just doesn't happen a lot around here. Some folks ask a little bit about micro hydro installations, but it's not super realistic since a lot of our hydro is frozen part of the year. And wind needs to maintain a consistent wind speed. In residential, it's different than commercial. There's a low and a high. It's measured over the course of a year for it to be viable, and that's more of an Eastern Montana type of a thing. It can happen here, but it's just not something we do very often. So PV, that's what the panels look like in that. You're missing the graph, it doesn't matter. That's a picture of a Pathfinder. We actually get up on your roof or at your site and check out if it would work. So when we're talking about PV, we're talking about these panels that you see. They're generally about 3 by 5 feet for residential or commercial installation, smaller panels for something more mobile. Solar thermal, this is a flat plate solar thermal installation with 3 panels. You'll also see evacuated tubes. Those are the bigger tubes. We've gone with flat plate recommendation after the big hailstorm in Bozeman over a year ago, took out almost 50% of the evacuated tubes. While the plate glass on PV and thermal is measured for 90 miles per hour at 1 inch hail or something like that, and in evacuated tubes as well at certain angles and in certain instances, the tubes seem to be faring worse in our climate. Ground source heating and cooling, for those of you that don't know, is when you access the consistent temperature of the Earth's core and use you can either have a closed loop or an open loop system or wells that runs fluid, brings it to that temperature, and from there in the mid-60s raises it up to whatever your desired mid-50s. What did it just, Zandy? Mid-50s, raises it up to your desired heating temperature in winter. So now you're trying to heat from 50 to mid-60 or low 70, depending on what you put your thermostat at. Or in summer, you can use it obviously to cool down. That's the fastest ground source heat pump explanation I've ever given. So energy efficiency examples, just so people know what we're actually talking about here. In the beginning, most companies that you would work with, ours, and we've invited some friends from Energetics that we work with, that starts with looking at your home or building, thermal imaging, infrared building analysis, blower door testing, duct blasting, checking how loose or tight your home is, how much air leakage or loss is happening. So some of the examples of retrofitting would be insulation, attic, rim joist, wall, air infiltration, and from that point, and then also heat recovery vents or HRVs, ground vapor barrier insulation, so that would be the vapor barrier around the base of your home, window replacement or upgrades, obviously to higher efficiency windows, and high efficiency furnace and or hot water heater upgrades. And a lot of these incentives are good for new construction as well as existing retrofits. In a new construction scenario, there is a energy code baseline, and you need to be taking your new construction beyond that. So pictorial example, caulking, windows. CFLs aren't included, but I like to put it in there because that's an easy thing that we can all do on our own. That's a picture of a blower door in the middle. That's spray foam insulation in the upper right, and then a thermographic overlay of the home, so you can see the blue. The red is where there's more heat, the blue is where there's less. So, incentives, utility-based. I'm going to break these down. Utility-based, state incentives, federal incentives, and loans. Then I'm just going to regroup them for you by residential and commercial, depending on what your motivation is today. The other thing I'd like to point out is energy and efficiency incentives are sort of like the story problems that I'm going to do in a little bit. And so I'm not going to get in significant detail about them because they're actually pretty intimate depending on your home and what you decide to do. You may already have a high efficiency furnace and you're not going to go there. You're actually looking at insulation, or you're putting on an addition and you want to know if what you have, what to do with that and how it relates to this. And there are too many scenarios for us to talk about today in a really meaningful way. So I'm going to gloss over a little bit of that. And then afterwards, if you have projects that you're working on right now or some specific questions, I'm going to direct you to our efficiency guys to talk about those, because it would be just too hard for me to talk about all the different incentives and what they mean right now. But on the bottom, what I want to point out is Northwestern Energy offers commercial and residential efficiency rebate programs for both electricity and gas reduction. And you often hear those referred to as the E+ business or the E+ residential programs. So if you're on their website looking for that stuff, or they have some pretty decent flyers about it, that's what we're talking about in this instance. From a utility grant standpoint, there's again, with the custom business efficiency program, they have some further things that you can do if you're looking at really large scale implementation, but I don't think that that's what we're talking about here. The basic grants that people are most interested in right now, Northwestern Energy customers through their USB Renewable Energy Fund are able to get up to $6,000 grant for solar photovoltaic, solar PV installs. That is $3 per watt up to a 2 kW system, a 2 kilowatt system. So if you're below 2 kilowatts, that $6,000 size is down at $3 a watt. If you're a 2 kilowatt system or larger, it caps at $6,000. That's pretty significant. When I started at SPS 2 years ago, a basic 2 kilowatt system was nearly $18,000. This grant covered about a third of it, which is awesome. Today, that same system comes in at just around $11,000 or just under $11,000, which means this grant is covering nearly 50% of that system. As a result of that, we're actually recommending slightly larger systems with an oversized inverter so that you can upgrade into a larger system without having to replace your inverter a few years down the road. So we think it maximizes the grant and make your system more flexible for you and cover more of your home's energy since prices have come down. The cooperatives do not offer PV, they do ground source, and they offer a $3,000 grant, and that's for retrofit or new construction of geothermal. And I just want to explain why briefly. The cooperatives, which generally get their energy from Bonneville Power, are hydroelectric. It's already considered a fairly clean energy, and their rates are at about 6 cents a watt, where ours on Northwestern are mostly coal-fired, and they're at around 11 cents. So they're cleaner and at half the price. So their motivation, and also you'll find that in town, people usually, electricity and gas are both coming from Northwestern. Out of town, there are a lot of customers that are still on propane or other heat sources, and a geothermal furnace can be up to 200 to 300% more efficient than wood or propane or other sources like that. So and a ground source heat pump can raise someone's electricity bill in the average home almost by double or more, but their feeling is our electricity is cheap, it's fairly clean, Let's get you off propane, which is really expensive. And if your electric bill goes up even twice, you're still saving almost $150 or $160 a month, no problem. So that's pretty cool. We'll go through that in our math problem. So residential state incentives, tax credits in this instance. I just want everyone to know I'm not an accountant. So you really have to discuss this with your accountant in the end. I'm not an accountant. Did y'all get that? Personal tax credit for residential RE, renewable energy, that's RE systems. For the state, personal credit, $500 per individual taxpayer or $1,000 per household. So if you and your spouse, you and your partner both work, you can get $1,000. And the excess credit can be carried forward over a few years. Property tax exemption, you can also do 100% of the value of your renewable energy system, up to $20,000 for a single family residence. That's pretty cool. These enhanced systems that we talk about are between $12,600 and $18,000, and so that fits into that realm. Personal tax credit energy conservation installation. This is 25% of the cost of capital investment, so of the actual products, with a maximum incentive of $500 per individual or up to $1,000 for married couple filing jointly. And the residential geothermal systems credit is 100% with a maximum incentive of $1,500. It cannot be used in the year in which the system was installed, but it can be carried forward for the 7 succeeding years. And from a commercial standpoint, it's the same property tax exemption, but up to $100,000 for non-residential. And that's because they figure businesses would be in a situation to install a larger system. Yeah, Anita?
Molly, on a property tax exemption, can that $20,000 be carried over?
Gosh, that's a good question. You know, let me look that up on my phone afterwards. When there's this page with resources, and I was going to provide this via PDF show to you guys if you wanted to, or anybody wants an email to them. But we use a site called Desire, and it'll be up here, DSIRE, and the site's Desire, DSIREUSA.org. And they have all of this on there outlined really well, and you click on your state, and then you can look at federal. And when I was rereading that for many hours this afternoon, I did not notice that in there. But most of the other stuff is carried forward, so I don't know, I'm not an accountant. And if I wasn't an accountant, I probably wouldn't be here today since yesterday was tax day. So, on to federal. Residential federal, 10% energy efficiency credit. This is 10% of materials cost with a $500 cap.
Lauren,
Did I put that in the wrong place?
that was for things installed in 2011, it's gone away.
Oh, I thought that was this year too. Okay, well, then I guess we all missed that yesterday. Thank you, Andy. But the 30% personal tax credit, there's no cap, I like to point out on this. And this is for renewable energy installations, so PV, thermal, geo, wind, and the excess credit can be carried forward. This is pretty significant. You look at an $18,000 or $20,000 system and you take 30% of that, it's a pretty big chunk of money. And if you feel like your tax liability was maybe pretty low this year, but you think it's going to be higher next year and future years, you can carry it forward or take a portion of it. That's I would say, aside from the $6,000 PV grant, the second most powerful incentive that's out there right now.
That's the one that's on the primary residence, right?
Yeah. So commercial federal, again, 30%, no cap. And there's a corporate depreciation incentive, 50% the first year with a 5-year accelerated remainder. And loans. While I've heard that Flathead Electric Co-op was maybe offering the loan, and there's a talk on a federal level that there were loans through HUD or Freddie Mae or Fannie Mac or other things like, right? Did I say that backwards? Other things like that. I think that Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. I think that right now this loan at 3.75% over 10 years, which is offered by our state. And it was originally started through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act with ARRA money, and has been extremely successful. In fact, this year they're expecting that there will be more applications than there are funds, which is awesome. That's exactly what should be happening. You can when it first started, you could take it, I think, up to 60,000. They've lowered it to 40. It was a little bit looser in the beginning, and now there's been a more mass adoption. And they lowered it last year from 4%, this year to 3.75%. So I'll show you in the story problem what this actually means. Before I go on to the math, are there any questions right now? I'm trying to keep it at 15 to 20 minutes, I think, right? That was the... So resources, here's Desire, database of state incentives for renewables and efficiency. And it's at the top, desireusa.org. The revolving loan fund, I have a couple brochures on with me, but you can also go to energizemontana.com. And on the left-hand side in the sidebar, you'll find the link for the Renewable Energy Revolving Loan Fund. Instead of telling you exactly what that site is, because it's really long and confusing, just go to Energize Montana, look in the left-hand column. And Northwestern Energy's PV grant is pretty long and confusing, but if you go to their page and select Montana, you can find it pretty quickly. And then the co-ops have their different sites on here. And I will say too, Northwestern Energy has its residential and commercial energy efficiency upgrade rebates. The co-ops have a series of rebates as well, and they're different than Northwestern Energy's. So you can see why we're not going to get into all of those here. But so it's important when you're talking to any of us or when you're pursuing these projects to realize who your energy company is. And all the websites, although some of them aren't as graphically pleasing or as snazzy as others, they're all pretty well documented with good information or downloadable PDFs or charts of things. So now it's time for math. Okay. Do you guys think this looks awesome? Pretend you want solar PV and your train A going at 97 miles per hour from Butte towards Missoula. You're a Northwestern Energy customer and you have $15,000 to spend and you don't need a loan. You don't want financing. In this example, we suggest a $12,000 solar PV system, which equals a 2.4 kilowatt system. And all of these examples are based off what is deemed the average Montana home. And the average Montana home, it has a footprint of 1,200 square feet, but potentially a basement or a second floor, so it's 2,400 square feet. And their annual energy use is 9,144 kilowatt hours. And their annual gas use is 93 decatherms. So just so you guys know, my 110-year-old house that has a budget bill of $106 a month is this size and uses this amount of energy almost exactly. So when I bought that house, it was an energy pig at 175. And can you imagine what that would be today at an average 4.4% increase of energy from 10 years ago? I mean, that would be like over $200 in budget billing a month. And I'm down to 106. So just keep that in mind because I think that's a nice real world example to grasp. So in this example, you could take the $6,000 grant that they would in general pay right to SBS Solar or a different NABCEP certified solar company and slide it over into efficiency world because you don't really have to pay it to us. So that means you're actually spending $6,000 on your solar and you're going to spend $9,000 on efficiency work in round one. And some examples of work that you could do would be an energy audit, obviously, to start. You could replace your furnace with a 94% efficient sealed combustion gas furnace. You could add heat recovery ventilation. You could do an attic upgrade with air sealing and insulation. You can do all these things for $9,000. You can do all these things for just under $13,000, but you could do a rim joist upgrade, which would be air sealing and insulation. So then look at the tax credits. I did $1,000 for the state because most people can get $1,000 for their household, but in some instances it's $500. And then the 30% federal, we do on that $6,000 net, not on the $12,000. And this has been recommended to us by accountants, but check with them. So I'm being conservative here because it would be awesome if that was $3,600 instead of $1,800, but I'm going to go with $1,800. So there's $2,800, and slide that over and add it to some of the tax credits, that $500 we talked about for efficiency, plus some other rebates and other things. And I added it with the $1,200 to get $4,000. And so essentially this year you could do $12,000 worth of solar and $9,000 worth of efficiency, and next year you, with your tax credits, you could do a second round of $4,000. So seriously maximize the money that you're investing in this. That means a total of $13,000 of efficiency work and a total of $12,000 of solar. You've invested $15,000, but you actually got $25,000 worth of work by leveraging your tax credits and your grant. And you are looking at about a combined reduction of 30% or more of your overall bill, which turns out to be about $48 a month on average. Pretty good. There's some articles I just read recently that say for every $1,000 a year of energy reduction in your home, you can actually, I don't know what just happened. I'll just go like this while I'm telling you this example. For every $1,000 of energy reduction in your home annually, you can actually raise your property value by almost $20,000. I was just reading that on a blog recently. And that was done on a study out of California and Arizona, Colorado, some states that are a little more populated, probably a little bit more progressive, so I would be more conservative here. It's still significant and something to consider. And I did do a random survey of about 10 friends of mine that are realtors and 3 that are appraisers. And they were saying to me that when you take 2 1970s style homes and, you know, near the food farm, or they'd be older, maybe in the rattlesnake, and one's had upgrades, maybe has renewable energy, one doesn't, one has a monthly budget bill of just under 100, one's upper 100s. The more efficient one is going to sell in 30 to 45 days. The other one's going to sit on the market maybe for 120, or the other one's going to sell for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more. So people are noticing that in town. That's just my random survey. So here's $15,000 and you need financing. So you're going after that DEQ loan, that 10-year 3.75% loan, which happens to be $150 a month. In this instance, instead of subtracting the grant, we added on. In the beginning, DEQ was totally fine with you transferring that grant to other things, but now they're being audited and being a little bit tighter because they want to spread it out to more people. So in the previous example, and in the olden days, 2 years ago, you could take that $6,000, you could do this example while applying for the grant. Now you can't. So instead what we say is, take out a $15,000 loan and apply the $6,000 grant to more solar. So you're actually paying us $12,000, but Northwestern's paying us $6,000, so you're getting $18,000 worth of solar, which you could also do in the previous example, but we're just doing that here. So how about leveraging the grant and the loan, and you have the other $3,000, 12 plus 3, 15 in efficiency. In this instance, because the net is $12,000, the federal credit is $3,600, 30% of $12,000, and the state credit stayed at $1,000. You have $4,600. Slide that over. In a $3,000 worth of efficiency work, you'd probably have $800 to $1,000 in rebates. There's that $500, and then maybe a little more. So we'll just go with $800. And so you could do a phase 1 of $3,000 and a phase of efficiency, and I guess I should call that phase 2, $5,400. So in this instance, you were able to do $8,400 of energy efficiency work, get a 3.84 kilowatt system, which is a 16 panel system that would cover almost 50% of your energy load on the average home. This is pretty significant. And when you add together the $18,000 system plus the original $3,000 plus the leverage tax credits and rebates at $5,400, you come out with taking a $15,000 loan and getting $26,400 worth of work done on your home in energy reduction measures. and you're reducing your overall bill, gas and electricity. So your electricity bill more than 50%, but your overall bill by about 40%, which comes out to be maybe around $90 a month netted out. So $60 a month savings. Pretty big deal. So think about like, what do you get out of your home by spending $15,000 on granite countertops or radiant heat or stone floor or stainless steel, or what do you get out of your home by putting this in? Well, you have a lower monthly cost, you get a higher resale value, and you do it out of the greenness of your heart.
You may have a more comfortable house as well.
And a more comfortable house, and safer, and probably healthier, so you might have less medical bills. I mean, there could be a lot of secondary things that I will not speculate about, but we can talk about those at length. So here's my final math example, unless anyone has questions on the first two. Okay, yeah.
Well, my question is just, are people interested in these numbers, or are they interested in pure payback?
You know, it's both, and when people come to you at 100% payback, they're still just generally not, that when that's like number one on their mind, prices came down enough that we can talk about that and you can get them excited still. When a grant covers half instead of 30%, that's a pretty big deal. When payback is your only motivation, it's a hard sale.
Only this produce. Yeah, only here. We got cheap power.
Well, excuse me?
It's only because we have the cheap.
Oh, yeah. And you know, you look at our power at 11 cents. I mean, California, it's like 40.
Yeah, it's big.
So it's a pretty big difference.
ROIs in other part of the country is 2-3 years in some cases.
Yeah. So payback is generally not the only motivator or the majority motivator for people. I will say we've been able to do some really neat projects this winter, and more in first quarter than we've ever done in the last 4 years of business in first quarter. I mean, exponentially more. People are coming out of the woodwork interested in this, so I'm just delighted that you guys are here. I think that there's a local movement, there's a national movement, even a global movement. We've had 3 or 4 churches ask us about solar. There's a whole green faith movement going on. We are partnering with a senior at Hellgate High School who did it as her senior project, and we're installing solar on Hellgate High School this spring and got a grant from Northwestern Energy for that. We're trying to write some grants for those churches as well. Guys are flying into the Selway River tomorrow to expand the off-the-grid system at the Selway Lodge and work on that. So it's really cool what's happening, and we're pretty excited about it. Okay, so if you were a co-op customer and you wanted to do a geo-solar combo and you have or need $40,000 to do it, this is how that would work. And I just realized I did not calculate. If anyone has a smartphone and wants to go to like a mortgage calculator, Liz Dow, you may be able to do this in your head. $40 amortized over 10 years at 3.75%. I would love to know what the monthly is on that because I did not calculate that. I'm sorry. I can do that on my phone in a minute. In this instance, you could break out that $40,000 into 29 to geo. We usually say it's 30 or 29,000, 1,000 in some base efficiency work, and 10,000 into solar PV. And then in this instance, the co-ops offer a $3,000 grant, which we suggest putting into a little bit more PV, but you could certainly put that into efficiency or something else. So now your 27,000 goes to geo, your 13,000 goes to PV. That's about a 2.9 system. And then the tax credits are huge. Look at that, $9,100 because that geo has no cap on 30%. Slide that over with the 30% on the PV, and you have $13,000 you could leverage in addition efficiency work. Clearly, you could put that into solar. You could put that into anything, pay off high interest, credit card debt, whatever, but we're just talking, here for this sake, put it into efficiency round 2. Now you're at to $14,000 of efficiency work, and you're at $13,000 worth of solar, and $29,000 worth of geo, and I realize I'm off by $1,000, sorry, I think. Maybe I'm not. $40,000 spent, $56,000 in work. And it's about a $214 a month energy reduction. What happens in this instance is we assumed that this person was using about the average, a little above average for electricity, the average for electricity, but they were on propane. So this example is about propane. And in this example, when they put in the ground source heat pump, they pretty much double a little bit more than double their electricity usage from 9,000 kilowatt hours to 19,000, which sounds crazy, but remember, it's hydro and it's at 6 cents. They totally get rid of the propane. And that right there is about $167 savings. Then if you look at the new electricity number and the size of the system, it reduces it again, and then that's added on down now. Plus there's additional energy efficiency work done at $2,000 to $13,000, well, $14,000 when it's all said and done. So I'll have to get back to you on what the monthly bill is on a $40,000 loan over 10 years at 3.75%. I'm sorry, I didn't do that.
It's $400.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. So it's $400. So in this instance, someone's, when you net it out, it's they'll be paying about $186 on that loan every month, and in 10 years it's done, and then it's in your pocket. Any questions on this math? Oh, yeah.
I'm actually just wondering, if they get rid of the propane, do they have any benefits of insurance? You guys,
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's a great question. See, there's a tons of secondary and residual benefits, and I don't know if that's one of them or not, but that's an excellent question. Does anybody here know? I never even thought about that.
What's the question?
If someone gets off of propane and now they're on Geo, do they have an insurance benefit because they don't have propane around at their house anymore? It's a great question. I have no idea.
You live longer though, so you don't have the stress of worrying about.
Yeah, right? So you're really going to need that energy bill savings after 10 months because you're going to live longer and then you're going to need that money. So those are my story problems. I hope you guys like them. I thought I was going to be a math teacher once at one point in my life. And that's it. Let's ask questions. Who I have here today to ask questions, and we have them stand up and kind of raise their hands. I have Zandy Sievers from SBS Solar. He's over at the bar. He's our lead energy tech and also moving into solar world. He studied Passive House, ResNet, all sorts of awesome energy efficiency things. And he does third-party verification to meet the energy code for homes and businesses. And he's also studying for that NABCEP certification, which is that solar certification that you need to have in order to get the grants. Our GM already has it. Erin Scott is also here from Scott Solar. We often partner with her. We bring a lot of projects to each other. She actually brought us the Hellgate High School project, and she's been getting into it. And so we've had a really great relationship growing another renewable energy business in town, which is awesome. It's been a good economic boom. And then I have Andy and Skander from Energetics. And we, on some of the higher end and more sophisticated energy efficiency retrofits, we've been working with these guys, and they've been referring their customers back to us for solar. I'm sorry that Darren Johnson from Ambrose Geothermal isn't here today. He's our main geo partner, but the guys at Energetics also do geo and do a great job of it, and we pass customers back and forth there too. So if you have geo questions and high-level energy efficiency, go to these guys. If you have solar and lower-level energy efficiency, go over to those guys. Or you can ask me. Oh, I do want to say one other thing. We're doing a series of small backyard talks on solar this summer called our Solar Tactical Events. And there's a flyer right on the corner. Nick, do you mind holding those up? Nick's our intern through the Governor's Energy Intern Program, and he's going to hold up those little things. You can grab one right now just to sort of get a sense of when they're going to be. They're going to be like a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night thing for a couple hours in different neighborhoods around town. Just a really informal way to talk to someone who's actually had one of our systems installed and is living with it and what they like about it. So if you want more info or you want to, bring some friends to a talk, grab that and then watch our Facebook page. We'll go like our Facebook page to get the info, or our blog or website. So thanks.
You can ask Molly questions.
Yeah, you can ask me questions now too, or you can break off to different areas. Anybody have any questions for me? Yep, back there.
For energy efficiency, you're going increased insulation in a home. Is straw bale, like a straw bale wrap in an existing home, recognized by the committee and credit?
So the question is, if you're upping the insulation value of a home and using straw bale to do it, is straw bale recognized by the rebate programs? Andy Skander.
Sure.
Well, actually, I think there's a way you could persuade them. You can call straw bale cellulose insulation because it is cellulose, and depends on your existing insulation level. I think there's a way you can swing it.
I'd like to say no. And Northwestern Energy is very conservative, and they have very prescriptive rebates. Straw bale is not one of the installations that they recognize. So I agree with Andy on the basis that it's cellulose, but it's not. They're not going to push the rebate for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what about the tax credit?
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I don't know. I would say, though, that's a great question. I would say check out Desire, because they are pretty, not only are they very thorough on their site, but they have all the appropriate links to the pages on the federal or the state or the utilities websites that outlines it even further. Yeah. You're just a little bit too progressive with your straw bale. Anyone else? All right, well, I would say at this point then, just come grab us individually about your programs and what it is that you're looking at doing. Thanks.